mother and father in Florida wanted to bring you into their lives?
Yeah, I did. My mother, when my mother adopted me, my mother and father, my mother was 46, and I think they had tried to have children,
Mm.
and she couldn't have children. And that's when they decided, late in their lives, 46 was late and for a woman, to adopt a child, I guess. And they found me through an acquaintance of theirs, friends of theirs, okay, had a picture of me, and they saw that picture, and they adopted me blindly. They adopted me from that picture,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it all began.
And it sounds like they treated you as if your mother, as if she had given birth to you. There was no different from how you were treated, and the unconditional love sounds like you received as a child and how you were brought up.
They were the warmest people. I had my grandmother and grandfather, my adopted mother and grandfather lived with us at the time. They welcomed me with open arms. It was just love at first sight. I felt very, very comfortable. I adapted immediately.
Back to that. So let's jump ahead a little. So you had a very positive upbringing in Miami Springs, went through school, and then you went off to college and then a career. So let's
Yes.
talk a little bit about that.
Yes, I went to high school. I'm a graduate of the University of Miami. I majored in film production, television production, and
How did you get drawn to that? So here you are, you're being potentially groomed for the restaurant business, but you have no interest in that.
no,
So
my mother, I knew that I worked so hard, and I just knew that this wasn't for me. I didn't want to be in a kitchen.
right.
I just, my parents did very well in the restaurant. We had celebrities come in from all over the country. I met so many celebrities that came because my father had the first real steakhouse. He bought his meat from New York, Angus beef from New York. There were no other steak places in Miami. My father got many of the steak restaurants started, as a matter of fact, back in the early 50s.
So tell me how you got drawn to film. Did you go to the movies as a kid?
I went to the movies every Saturday, like all the kids. We went to the matinees. Okay, Saturday, I looked forward to the matinees, saw all the westerns, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry. I went through that whole 50s thing.
And you enjoyed that? Was this a little bit of an escape, or you looked how other people experienced their lives, or is this something that you enjoyed?
I enjoyed it because I looked forward to Saturdays. And the Saturday matinees, you'd spend 4 or 5 hours in the movies.
So were there activities you were involved in, maybe even some kind of introduction? You said the movies and going to Saturdays, but tell me how you transitioned to say, okay, film, this is something I want to pursue in my education and eventually career.
I took violin lessons. My parents got me to play violin. I played violin for 10 years. I think I became pretty good at it because I was offered a scholarship at the University of Miami, which I didn't want. I didn't want to be a music major. At that time, being a musician, you didn't make a lot of money, and it was not that great. So I always leaned towards film. I just knew I just loved that. But I went to music camp in North Carolina. I played in the orchestra. I was concertmaster in my high school orchestra. I mean, I had a good time in high school. And then when I went to college, at the University of Miami, I took up all these courses, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, I made it through in 3.5 years because I couldn't wait to come to New York or somewhere and start my career.
Like back then, when you're at University of Miami and taking these courses, nowadays they talk about the opportunity for internships, externships, and being introduced to different companies and opportunity for a career to transition. Did you have any opportunities like that?
Well, that's interesting you say that. I interned at a local television station in my senior year, which you all had to do. And then I had an uncle, okay, who was, at that time, he wasn't a real uncle, but I called him uncle. He was head of 20th Century Fox advertising and promotion for 30 years. And he was well connected, and he's told me that when I'm ready, he'd get me a job at 20th Century Fox. So when I graduated the University of Miami, I was ready to drive to California. I had a job at 20th Century Fox, but I took a month off. I wanted to wouldn't have a rest between school and career. And I came to New York, okay, and fell in love with New York, okay. I stayed with my blood relatives.
So had you been to New York since the storm of 1947? This was your first time back?
I was back in New York.
Okay.
And I fell in love with New York. No, I'm sorry. I was in New York in 1958. I was there. This was my second time.
Okay.
Okay. And I just said, I think this is where I want to work. So I started looking for work here. And I called my uncle up and I said, listen, thanks, but no thanks. You know, he was a little disappointed, but he understood. I said, I really want to stay in New York and pursue my career, and which I did. So
And when is this? This is what year?
1962.
So this is when things are kind of in transition. There's still a big New York presence for things like television, right? Like The Tonight Show then started in New York and then eventually went out to California.
Well, no, I stayed in New York. I got a job in the mailroom with a very large advertising agency, SSC&B at the time. I was very grateful, but that's what you did. You started in the mailroom,
Right.
and then you worked yourself up, you know, whichever. And I knew I wanted to get into the television department, commercial department of that agency. So eventually, I made my connections, you know, and ended up to become a junior producer at this agency, and started doing commercials.
So as a junior producer, what was
Producer.
your role in putting these television commercials together?
Just, you know, you all the logistics. You worked with the production companies and so on, and did commercial. We did Volkswagen commercials. We had, you know, we did CoverGirl. We had American Tobacco. We did a lot of work, and then I transitioned on the other side to a production company. And that's when my career really took off.
And on the production side, what was your focus?
I started as a production manager, and we did commercials. We worked with all the major agencies. We did spots, commercials with Doyle Dane and Bernbach. At that time, they had the Volkswagen account. And we did a lot of Volkswagen commercials, S&H green stamps, CoverGirl, Lucky Strikes. I mean, all those commercials we used to do.
So you had a hand in all components of the production, with the acting and the writing and the directing,
No, we hired all those people.
Okay.
But as a producer, you put it all together.
So you're coordinating
You're a
everything.
producer.
And
You had to put it all together. Yes, casting, all that kind of stuff.
so as a producer, you're the person ultimately responsible for delivering the final product to the client, or whoever it might be, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Henry, as you move through your life, an opportunity presented itself not too long ago for you to reunite with others from the orphanage. Is that right?
Correct.
And that was actually during COVID, actually, I think, right? I believe, right? During 20, or was that earlier than that? I'm sorry.
Well, actually, I met one of the children that I was in the orphanage with through a mutual friend while we were in Brussels. And we reunited after so many years.
Was that Ronnie
That was
Wolfe?
back in 2000. No, that was back in 2004.
Oh, okay, okay.
2004. Okay. But then we were reunited. There was a book that was written by a young man called Rainier Heisman.
We understand was
Heisman.
a Dutch law student who
Yes,
got
this
involved
is-
with that?
Yes, and it's called From the Children's Home to the Gas Chamber. And my story is in here, plus 70 other or 80 other stories, okay? And Rainier was incredible. He was only 25 years old, and he brought all these children that I was in the orphanage with, he brought them together. And he reunited all of us, okay, back about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And we had a Zoom session, and we met each other again. It was very exciting.
I wonder, having gone through the unspeakable tragedy that you did as far as losing your parents and your sister, do you feel that your life maybe was spared for a reason? Is there an...
I've thought about that. I've thought about that, and I don't know how to answer that. Only that I feel that I've been successful. I produced a terrific child, a daughter. Okay. I've just been very, very lucky. I think I brought happiness to a couple, my mother and father, my adopted mother and father.
Yes.
And I think I brought happiness to them. They were terrific to me, and I know that they were very, very happy that they adopted me and that I was part of their life. So I feel like I made a lot of people happy. I have a wonderful life today. I have a wonderful wife, a new wife that I've been married to for 35 years. And I have grandchildren. Maybe that alone I contributed in some way, some shape or form, that I survived and I was able to, produce these marvelous people and just associate with them and met them and all. I feel that way.
Well,
I don't know if I served a particular purpose, but I feel that.
well, maybe just doing your best to live a good life and your best life.
Yes.
And-
I think I made a lot of people happy.
And in pursuing things that you enjoyed and were passionate about at the same time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So when you were literally 4 years old, you experienced the worst form of anti-Semitism
Yes,
known
I
to
did.
mankind, your closest living relatives having been killed by the Nazis. So I just wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts and your opinions about the ever-increasing anti-Semitism that's going on in the United States, in Europe, and across the world? What are your thoughts about that? Is there anything that people can do about that to address it?
I'm very concerned about that, and it's frightening to me, and especially in light of what's happening in the universities around this country. When I came over here, I thought this would never happen again. I came to a wonderful country. Yes, there was some anti-Semitism, but nothing like it is today. Or maybe there always was, and it just was subdued. I don't know what. But today, to see that, it's so reminiscent of the 30s. And I just feel that these kids that are demonstrating are ignorant. They are not taught, and it's all about education. And anti-Semitism isn't really taught enough in the schools today, from elementary school, secondary school, high school, colleges. It's not taught.
So
And because of that, I think these young people are growing up ignorant about it.
so you're placing that in part on the educational system, its failings on the
Absolutely.
educational system. What about the families and the home educational component of it?
Well, that's true, you know. Uh, a lot of it starts in the home. You're absolutely right there. Uh, you know, when I hear anti-Semitism here in our local high school, for instance, and I hear about swastikas, I don't think there's enough. There, they don't deal with it in the proper way. And again, it starts in the home. It's
Right.
not the kids learn this somewhere. They learn it in the home.
Does that represent hate to you, or ignorance to you, or a combination?
Both.
What is? Yes.
Both. It's a form of hatred and ignorance, and it amazes me. Okay, this is like a repeat of what happened, you know, 80 years ago, and I thought I remember people saying, even my parents said it could happen again, and I said no, not in this country. It can't happen again. And sure enough, here it is. And present time, 2024, and every day you hear something about anti-Semitism, not only in this country, but the world. And I don't know what the answer is. I think Jews have been maligned and discriminated against for thousands of years. And I don't know if it's ever going to end, not in my lifetime.
Do you have any thoughts as to why that is?
Again, it's ignorance, it's education. It's not curtailed in any shape or form. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer. I've pondered it many, many times. I pick up the papers every day. There's always some kind of an incident. It's just so frightening. And the demonstrations, it's just incredible to me.
Does that tie into it? And I appreciate you sitting down and talking now. I know we've been talking about it for quite a while, and others have been. Does the state of the world and things like anti-Semitism, was that part of your decision to sit down and tell your story now?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I hope I make some kind of an impact. Somebody watching and understands the hurt that Jews are going through presently. And it's not just Jews. Discrimination of every kind, whether it's against blacks, whether it's against Muslims. I just abhor discrimination of any kind, but particularly these days against Jews and Israel. It's puzzling to me.
It is, and the world can be a puzzling place, but I want to thank you for sitting down. It's been an honor and a privilege to do this with you, and have you share your life experiences and important life that there's something for all of us to draw from, and I want to thank you, Henry.
I'm glad you took the time to visit with me and enable me to tell some of my story. There's a lot more that I can tell, but we'd need hours, to sit here and bore people with. But thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Okay.
You're watching Lewisboro Community Television, Channel 20.